The wheelchair hit the pavement crack at full speed, and before anyone could stop her, 7-year-old Wren Calloway pushed herself out of it, stumbled forward on legs that hadn't held her weight in 3 years, and threw herself into the arms of a man covered in engine grease. Her mother, Vivian Ashford Calloway, one of the wealthiest women on the eastern seaboard, stood frozen on the sidewalk outside a rundown auto shop, her designer heels rooted to the concrete, unable to process what her own eyes were showing her. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in miracles that start with the smallest acts of grace, give this video a like, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, share it with someone who needs a little hope today, and subscribe to Heart Kindness Tales so you never miss a story like this one. It was a warm Tuesday afternoon in early October when Vivian's town car had broken down 2 blocks from Calloway Tower, the gleaming glass headquarters of the shipping empire her late husband had built, and she now ran with an iron will that had made her both respected and feared. She never drove herself anywhere, but that day her driver had taken ill, and pride had made her insist she could handle a short errand alone. The car sputtered and died outside a modest shop with a hand-painted sign reading Sullivan's Repair, and Vivian, irritated and already late for a board meeting, had no choice but to wait inside while a mechanic looked at the engine. That mechanic was Grant Sullivan, a 34-year-old widower who had been raising his son alone since his wife passed from illness 2 years earlier. Grant's hands were rough, his coveralls stained, and his life was built around small, steady things, opening the shop at 7, packing his son's lunch, keeping promises. He had no idea who Vivian Ashford Calloway was when she walked through his door, only that she looked like a woman who had not stopped moving in years, and that her daughter, strapped into an expensive wheelchair, had eyes that seemed too old and too sad for a child her age. Wren had not walked since the accident that took her father's life and shattered her spine 3 years prior. Vivian had spent a fortune on specialists in Switzerland, in Japan, in every city where hope could be purchased, and every doctor had given her the same careful, hedging answer: the damage was severe, recovery was unlikely, and she should prepare herself and her daughter for a different kind of life. Vivian had never accepted that answer. She had simply stopped talking about it, burying the grief under work, under meetings, under the relentless architecture of her empire, because grief left unaddressed does not disappear, it only waits. While Grant worked on the car, his own son, a quiet 6-year-old named Silas, came out from the back office where he did his homework after school, holding a half-finished puzzle of a lighthouse. He noticed Wren sitting alone by the window, watching him with the particular loneliness of a child who has learned that other children don't know what to say to her. Instead of staring or looking away, the way most people did, Silas simply walked over, sat down on the floor beside her wheelchair, and asked if she wanted to help him find the pieces with blue sky in them. Wren hesitated, then nodded. For 20 minutes, while Vivian paced near the counter checking her phone and fielding calls about a shipping contract worth more than the entire block Sullivan's Repair sat on, her daughter laughed. Not a polite laugh, not the careful smile she gave at galas and hospital visits, but a real, unguarded laugh that Vivian had not heard in years. She turned to look, and something in her chest tightened at the sight of her daughter leaning forward, animated, alive, over a $2 puzzle with a stranger's son. Grant came out from under the hood to tell Vivian the part he needed would take a day to arrive, and braced himself for the anger he assumed a woman like her would show. Instead, she was watching the children, and there was something raw and unguarded on her face that didn't match the composed executive who had walked in an hour earlier. He didn't know her name yet, didn't know her net worth, didn't know that people in boardrooms 3 states away trembled at her displeasure. He only saw a tired mother, and he offered her a cup of coffee from the ancient machine in the corner, the kind of small kindness he'd offer anyone. Over the next hour, waiting for a tow truck that Vivian's assistant had finally arranged, she found herself talking to Grant in a way she hadn't talked to anyone since her husband died. He told her, without asking for pity, about losing his wife, about learning to braid his son's hair for the school photo because there was no one else to do it, about how the shop barely broke even some months but it was his, and it was honest work, and Silas never went without knowing he was loved even when money was tight. Vivian, who had every material advantage and had still watched her daughter's spirit dim year after year despite it, felt something crack open in her chest, a recognition that money had bought her daughter safety but had never once bought her joy. The tow truck arrived, but Wren didn't want to leave. She clung to the doorframe of the shop and asked, in a small voice that broke her mother's heart, if they could come back tomorrow. Vivian, against every instinct of a woman who scheduled her life in 15-minute increments, said yes. They did come back the next day, and the day after that. What began as a broken-down car became a friendship neither adult had expected or entirely understood. Silas and Wren built an entire universe out of puzzle pieces and crayon drawings and the small plastic dinosaurs Grant kept in a coffee can for customers' bored children. Grant taught Wren, patiently and without any grand gesture, how the engine of a car worked, letting her turn a wrench with her small hands while sitting in her chair, treating her not as a fragile object to be pitied but as a curious child who deserved to be included. Vivian began arriving not in her town car but sometimes on foot, no entourage, no assistant trailing her with a tablet, just a mother who had found somewhere her daughter wanted to be. It was on the fourth week, on a bright, ordinary Tuesday afternoon much like the first, that everything changed. Silas had rolled a small rubber ball across the shop floor as a joke, and it had bounced just out of Wren's reach. Grant had moved to fetch it for her, the way everyone always did, the way that had quietly taught Wren over 3 years that her body was something to be managed rather than lived in. But before he reached it, Wren's hands gripped the arms of her wheelchair, her face set with a determination her mother hadn't seen since before the accident, and she pushed herself up. Vivian, who had just walked in through the shop's front door, saw her daughter's legs tremble and then hold. She saw Wren take one unsteady step, then another, arms outstretched not toward the ball but toward Grant, who dropped to his knees in shock as the little girl closed the distance between them and threw her arms around his neck, laughing and crying at once. Vivian could not move. Every specialist, every machine, every prayer whispered over 3 sleepless years collapsed into this single, impossible moment in a mechanic's shop that smelled of motor oil, where her daughter stood on her own 2 feet because, for the first time since the accident, she had felt safe enough, happy enough, loved enough, to try. The doctors would later explain that Wren's injury had been borderline, that with the right physical therapy and, crucially, the right emotional environment, partial recovery had always been possible, but that fear and trauma had likely been holding her back as much as the injury itself. Vivian, who had spent a fortune chasing a cure in sterile clinics across the globe, learned that the missing ingredient had been sitting in a modest repair shop the entire time, in the shape of a kind, unassuming man who never once knew her bank balance and had loved her daughter anyway. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video and leave a comment below, because these stories deserve to be shared with the world, and your support means more than you know. Before we go any further, I want to ask you for something small. Type the word kindness in the comments right now if you believe love and simple compassion can heal what money never could. Vivian sold nothing, changed nothing about her empire, but she changed everything about her life. She and Grant married the following spring in a small ceremony behind the shop, with Silas and Wren, now walking hand in hand, serving as the flower children who scattered petals across the cracked pavement where their story had begun. Vivian never again wore heels that couldn't run after her daughter, and Grant never stopped fixing cars, because he had learned, and taught her, that the truest wealth was never kept in a bank at all. It was found in a Tuesday afternoon, a broken-down car, and 2 children who reminded 2 grieving hearts how to hope again.